Welcome to Extraterrestrial Reality. Well, we are on the eve of getting lied to again about UFOs and the extraterrestrial / non-human presence on this planet by a segment of the United States government. Yes, folks, that's what's going to happen on March 8th at around 10 a.m. That's when we're expected to receive this report from the All-domain Anomaly Resolution Office. It's a historical records report on UFOs, and it's not going to tell us anything. It's going to be bogus, and and people in the UFO community, I am certain, are going to be able to pick it apart and point out where the inconsistencies and lies that it contains. That's for another day, because we do not have that report right now. But anyway, I want to go over what's going on right now in the with this, how people are concerned about this right now. There's a lot of people all over the internet, a lot of people in the UFO community who are concerned. Ross Coulthart, the investigative journalist who works for News Nation, he actually wrote on Twitter today that multiple sources are telling me that the Department of Defense AARO UAP report given to a select journalists in an embargoed briefing is coming out tomorrow at 10 a.m. and it will be an absolutely unequivocal rejection of a non-human intelligence presence or that the United States has retrieved craft. This is intended to shut down the UAP commentary for good. I responded to him with that's not going to happen, though. But other people have responded. UFOB, it's a UFO channel that I talk about that's on YouTube. They have a really good channel. They responded saying there is only one way out for the Department of Defense, and that is by telling the truth. It is impossible to put this cat back in the bag. So it is really a PR disaster what they are doing now. It's a total disaster. Yes, I totally agree. What they're doing, this is disastrous. This is disastrous, especially for people who have studied this and know that we're being gaslighted and know that we're being lied to about this. There's no question about it that there is a secret control group. There are gatekeepers. It's composed of some Pentagon officials along with some Department of Defense, defense contractors who are working together for many decades now, reverse engineering these things, retrieving these craft. They know about this. They know the truth that there is a presence here that's not human, that's more intelligent than we are, that has technology that exceeds anything that we have ever created. That's what's going on here. There's people out there who are ignorant to this, and they will believe whatever mainstream news pundits tell them, whatever someone who stands at a podium from the Pentagon will tell them about this. That's how it is. That's unfortunate, but people who study this know that the government, there's a segment of the government that is controlling this narrative, and they are lying about it. They are not telling the truth, and we are going to be lied to again. I'm of the opinion that at this point that I think the only way we're going to get disclosure is if any of these whistleblowers, if they do not have any sort of end-all evidence that they could present, right, to the public, then the only way that we could get, and here's the thing before I continue with this thought, if they don't, then the only way we're going to get disclosure, I think we need to go on a shaming campaign. We need to shame the people that are not only the gatekeepers who are withholding this information. We shame them with facts that they won't be able to refute with regards to this, as well as shame the mainstream media who are basically acting as press agents for the Department of Defense and not really questioning anything that they put out. I mean, basically, I expect there's going to be stories tomorrow. There will be articles tomorrow in mainstream news publications, the ones who were invited to this briefing yesterday, this closed briefing. Actually, it was embargoed. They were told, whoever was allowed to go to this thing yesterday, they were told that, hey, you got to hold off until we release this report. So they brought them in early, the ones they trust, right? And so that makes these media organizations complicit with this lie. And what are they going to do? They're going to toe the Pentagon line. They're going to write articles that basically state everything that the Pentagon says, and there's not going to be any refutation. If maybe a little smidgen here or there, maybe they might say something about Grusch, but I can assure you that most of these articles, most certainly, are going to be bogus. They're going to be completely one-sided, telling a story that's not true to the world. That's what we could expect. And I'll tell you who else is complicit. A lot of these debunkers out there running around They do not do any real research for the most part, and they're helping this too. They're helping to they're complicit in this cover up as well. We need to shame them with facts and show how their positions are completely wrong on a regular basis. We need to up the ante here. That's what needs to happen. Unless, if there are people out there, whistleblowers, or, in addition to Grusch, there's supposed to be like 40 other whistleblowers. If they have any sort of evidence that they could present that could end this argument once and for all, then they need to do it. They need to do it right now. Now, here's the problem with that. I don't know how they can do something like that. I am of the opinion that these evidence of extraterrestrials, I would believe that all of this stuff is in extremely secure facilities where there are people who are armed, watching over it, security guards, all kinds of things like that. That it would be virtually impossible to sneak something out, any sort of artifact, any sort of alien body, any sort of document, whatever. I think it would be extremely difficult to sneak out. You hear debunkers a lot on the internet saying, "Well, where's the proof? Where's these whistleblowers with their proof?" Well, maybe they can't get it. Maybe they have a couple of documents, but that probably wouldn't be enough. We need more than that. We need the actual alien objects that have been recovered. That's what we need. We need, for instance, the memory metal that many witnesses talked about that was found in the Roswell wreckage. We need things like that. If there's any kind of evidence like that to show old films that were made by the government back in the day, perhaps maybe they've been some of those films. I'm sure, but we would hope any kind of archival footage has been put onto digital format by now. Is there any way to get that? Things like that. We need whistleblowers to come step up with that evidence to show the world, to end this already. Because a lot of us out here, we know that they're lying, and there's nothing really you can do about it. I mean, they have the power. They're holding the cards when it comes to this, right? I mean, when you have the power, the military might to prevent any sort of leak, any sort of substantial leak, well, they're going to win every time. But I don't know. I don't know what any of these whistleblowers have. We've been hearing about them, but we really haven't heard too much other than from Grusch. We need something more than what we have. And beyond that, I think shaming the mainstream media for letting the Pentagon get away with this for so long. They're obviously lying. Anybody with any sort of intelligence in their mind who studies this subject would know that they're lying. There's no question about it. So I think that's what we need to think about, is just shaming them, because we have to, how could you deny when you have, like, for instance, in the Roswell case, all of these witnesses saying, this guy was one of the soldiers who was picking up some of the debris at the Foster Ranch. Here's another one who flew the bodies from Roswell to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Are all of these people lying? What's their explanation for this? What is their explanation for this? Now, I know we were expecting, based on some of the comments made by Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick recently, I know we're going to get some more lies told to us about the Roswell case, and we're going to know it. You're going to know. We already know. He's talking about people got confused with metal balloons, balloons that were coated with aluminum. That's going to be part of this new narrative, even though it was talked about in the past before. We have to shame them with what other people have said in the past, people who went on the record, people who signed affidavits right before they died, people who gave deathbed confessions talking about that, no, there were alien bodies there. There were multiple witnesses, multiple military personnel who, before they passed on, talked about alien bodies, right? From 1947, not anthropomorphic dummies dropped from White Sands in 1954. No, they're talking about actual alien bodies. They knew about it. So we're going to have to start shaming them with the facts, and show that everything that they're telling us is, for the most part, false and phony and made up and a lie, because they want to continue with this. But again, there's a lot of concern on from a lot of people from the UFO community on Twitter, and I want to talk about what some of the other people were saying here. Christopher Sharp of Liberation Times writes on Twitter, the Pentagon's treatment of journalists is what one might expect from an authoritarian regime and has no place in a democratic country. Journalists should have refused the terms offered to be complicit in its info warfare efforts on UAP. It is wrong and should be called out. Yeah, I totally agree with Christopher Sharp. Of course, as we all know, Sharp writes for Liberation Times, which I think is probably the best news outlet out there, that it's covering UFOs pretty much solely on in that, with the goings on in Washington and what's going on with Congress with regard to this subject. And he does a great job, and he's absolutely correct. I mean, the fact that news outlets like News Nation, who has been covering this topic, they weren't invited. Stephen Greenstreet, the quote journalist end quote from the New York Post, who's also a debunker, he was crying about the fact that he wasn't invited either. But so there was only certain news organizations invited. I'm sure the New York Times and Washington Post, among a few other cherry-picked ones that will toe the Pentagon line, ones that will basically be handed the press release and then write it up verbatim, and they won't do any other investigation. That's usually how it works with the mainstream news. They'll completely carry the Pentagon's water when it comes to this subject, and then just laugh about. And then there'll be some other shows, like morning shows, where they'll talk about this and laugh about it and chuckle and say, "Yeah, people are stupid for believing in aliens and UFOs." Ha 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 ha. The Pentagon says so. Ha 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 ha. We believe everything the Pentagon tells us. Ha 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 ha. You know, that's what we're going to get. This is not going to work. If they think that this is going to end the argument, end this discussion, and put it back in a box, it's not going to happen. People are going to the UFO community is going to get louder. That's what's going to happen. Like I said, I think it's time that we begin shaming the gatekeepers, as well as the mainstream news outlets that are complicit, as well as the debunkers. We gotta just point out the lies, the falsehoods that they put out there, and that's what we gotta start doing. I think that's the next step. We're gonna have to take that route. I've been trying to do that here on this show for a long time now. That's why I call people dumbbells, idiots, morons, because I'm trying to get the attention of the world out there. We gotta, this is real. It's actually a real thing that's happening, and we're being lied to about it. And it's time that people wake up to it. That's what needs to happen. And more people need to start pointing this stuff out. All of us, we need to get a little bit louder about it, a little bit more mad about it, and start, laying it out, like showing why they're wrong and why we're right. We got to have our facts all laid out. We got to show why their positions are completely, absolutely absurd. Like, for instance, the Air Force's story on Roswell. It's completely absurd. Balloons and dummies, that doesn't cut it for me. That's a lie. I know that it is. Based on all the research I've done, there's no way that that's what people were seeing back in 1947. That's all nonsense. It's made up. It's phony. It's a false story, and they're going to tell it again in a different version in this new report. Anyway, continuing here. Let's see. Gary Nolan writes, the phaser cuts both ways. To claim the evidence shows there is no evidence, the evidence data must be released. Not releasing the data tells me something is being hidden. No science is ever done, and no claims or conclusions can be made if the raw data is behind a firewall. Then he says, no entry, just trust me. Yeah, so that's another thing. Like, how are they going to, when they come out with this phony report that dispels this whole thing, this crash retrieval, reverse engineering programs, the discovery that there is an extraterrestrial presence on this planet, when they come out with this report that dispels all this, right? What are they going to show us that's going to prove to us that's going to end it? They're not going to show you anything. They're just going to say we don't have anything. That's what they're going to do. And again, people in the mainstream news like the New York Times and the Washington Post are going to take this bait, hook, line, and sinker, whether they're because they're stupid or whether they're just going along and they just know that this is for the good of the country, whatever their reasoning. I don't know, right? They're just going to toe that Pentagon line. We just can't stand for that. We can't do this anymore. We just can't do this anymore. It's getting too old. It's really stale at this point. Anyway, let's see what some other people said. Here's what Klaus says. Klaus is always a prominent voice on Twitter X. He says, either Sean Kirkpatrick isn't telling the truth or David Grusch isn't telling the truth. I've only seen one of them do this, and he has a picture of David Grusch standing there taking an oath right before he testified before a House Congressional Committee last year. Yeah, exactly. Yes, I totally agree. Yeah. Sean Kirkpatrick has not testified under oath on this, where David Grusch has talked about that there is cover-up and there are reverse engineering programs and crash retrieval programs. He's already talked about this under oath. Everyone's upset about this. Here's another one from Klaus. The recent smear job on David Grusch alone should make anyone question the validity of AARO's upcoming report and the entire office in general. I have no doubt Sean Kirkpatrick knows exactly who tipped off Ken Klippenstein. There is something seriously rotten within the Pentagon. Well, of course, he's talking there about when Grusch went public last year. Initially, there was that one reporter, that one idiotic reporter, Ken Klippenstein, who did the hit piece on Grusch. He was actually sicked onto Grusch by some insiders in the Pentagon who gave information to Klippenstein with regards to Grusch's issues with PTSD. So then Klippenstein writes this article that basically makes Grusch look like a moron, like a nut. That was most certainly a hit piece, and it was and this idiot Klippenstein, he published it. He just wanted another news story. That's all he is. He just wanted another a yellow journalist. That's what he is. I mean, he just wanted to do another hit piece on another person. That's all that was about. And the people in the Pentagon, they used him he was just a useful idiot to them to get that story out. They'll do that to anybody who tries to tell the truth about this. That's what they do. Think Tank on Twitter says there is going to be a hilariously stupid UAP report being released soon by AARO. Once that is out, the real fun begins with countermeasures from the good guys. Yep, there will be countermeasures. I'm sure we'll have to be talking about this again. See, this takes, in a way, it bothers me because you have to address this report. I'll have to talk about it on the show. Other people will be talking about it on their UFO shows, and it takes the eye out. It takes the eye off the ball here. That's what I think. Here's something from Lou Elizondo. This was actually from yesterday. He wrote, he says, many of us, already provided classified evidence to AARO. Lying about it doesn't help his case. He's talking about Kirkpatrick. But like everything else, the truth is always revealed. Sadly, I really did try and give him a break in the beginning. No matter, his comments won't age well, nor will his narrative. So Elizondo is telling you right there that Kirkpatrick is lying and his narrative will not age well. I have to agree with that statement. Let's see what else is said here. Christopher Sharp again says, this is why old media will soon be dead. No one trusts publications which merely spread state propaganda without investigation and scrutiny. Exactly. Like, you would think that publications like the Washington Post, who have the resources, the money to investigate these things, you think they would put on some of their best reporters on this to dig out the reality of this story, to dig it up and tell the truth to the world, but they're not doing it. They just toe in the Pentagon line. They don't send out their Woodward or Bernsteins for this one. They'll do it for Watergate, but they're not going to do it for UFOs. They're just not going to. Here's another one from Klaus. It says here, the former employee who wrote AARO's historical review on UAP had a public meltdown on LinkedIn and cited a QAnon conspiracy theorist in his op-ed. Both he and his former boss left the Pentagon before its release. There is no reason to believe anything in this report. There was another one here from Klaus that I want to read. He says the UFO cover-up is not a conspiracy theory. It is a conspiracy. Yeah, let's throw that out there. It's not a theory. There is a conspiracy. There's been a conspiracy for a long time. Long before, a lot of people already knew this. A lot of people who have been studying this knew long before 2017 rolled around, long before those leaked Pentagon videos showed up, long before anybody heard of Lou Elizondo, right? We already knew this. There's most certainly a conspiracy. It's been ongoing for a long time to keep this secret, based on all the research that people have done, based on a lot of comments that people have made, people within government. Like, for instance, the late Senator Barry Goldwater, I like to bring up. He talked about, meeting with his friend Curtis LeMay, and Goldwater wanted to get into this alleged blue room at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base where there are alleged bodies and or craft kept of these aliens, of these recovered craft. And he was, and that was the only time Goldwater said that he ever saw LeMay angry. And he said, "Don't ever ask me at that again." And was very angry with him, and he wouldn't tell him anything. So, I mean, that's just one little anecdote. I mean, there's a lot of more anecdotes, and when you put them all together, right, it tells you a story. And plus, there's other evidence. You have the testimony from people connected with the Roswell incident, from Jesse Marcel to Pappy Henderson. There's just so many different names out there over the years who have talked about what they experienced in Roswell in 1947, and they say that very clearly that it had nothing to do with balloons or dummies. And here we're going to be lied to again. We're being gaslighted. It's like, they can't help it. There's nothing else they can do. You would think that just telling the truth already and getting this off their chest and just letting the world know what the reality is, you think that would be the best thing to do. But no, they're quadrupling down. How many times over the years have you seen someone from the military, from the Pentagon, step up and tell you lies about this? And they're still doing it. They're just still doing it. They won't tell us the truth. And it's really sad, really sad. Anyway, I wanted to talk about some of the recent comments I've been receiving on YouTube and on Spotify. And, I did a lot of different episodes recently. Here was one from 21 hours ago. This would have been from yesterday, from Catkins Cat. Writes, this was with regard to my recent episode, Kirkpatrick Strikes Again. It says here, using the term space alien instead of NHI is a way of making the subject look silly, and therefore anyone who seriously looks into this subject should be seen as crazy or a conspiracy theorist. Also, to link the subject with sci-fi keeps it in the realm of the unbelievable. These are the tactics from the 1950s, and unfortunately for Mr. Kirkpatrick, he is dealing with 21st century society that doesn't allow the state to think for it. He suggests that the only reason people are interested in this topic is from watching sci-fi, whereas it would seem that quite a few people involved with this have had an unusual experience with the phenomenon. I think this man showed his true colors a while ago. His opinion is no surprise to me. That was a great comment. I really enjoyed that comment, because that's what he's doing. Basically, I talked about he has another op-ed out, basically poo-pooing all of this away, making it sound like it's silly again. They found nothing. There's nothing to it, right? And so he tried to blame it on people watching sci-fi movies and wanting to believe in it because of sci-fi movies, which is absolutely absurd. I laid out the reasons why that's absurd in the previous podcast. And here was another comment. This is from Crypto Citizen 2292 on YouTube. He states, Kirkpatrick's disinfo tour hasn't gained traction with the public. On the other hand, articles and interviews with Grusch, Elizondo, etc. still get hundreds of thousands to millions of views. No one cares what this guy has to say other than the hardcore debunkers and negativists. When the next shoe drops, such as field hearings or a new whistleblower comes forward, Kirkpatrick is going to become even more irrelevant. I think within short order he's going to be a forgotten footnote in the annals of the history of this topic. Yeah, in the future, this guy's going to look like a fool. He's going to look like a lying fool. That's what he's going to look like. It's not going to be good, because I know that he's lying. I did a poll recently with regard to that. Is he a known? Does he know that he's a liar, or is he just a tool for the Pentagon? He doesn't realize it. A fool. We'll get into that later on. A doofus, rather. Okay, let's see. There were some other comments here I wanted to talk about. Yeah, this was a good one. This is a long name here. This is from YouTube. User YJ5FP2Go1X puts out a phony conversation here, really regarding about how illustrating how AARO was set up. Basically, the Congress established AARO, but it allowed the Pentagon the name the director to it, and that's foolish. Basically, basically you're allowing the organization that is that we're saying is covering this up to establish its own group to figure out if there's a cover up or not, which is absurd. He puts this phony conversation together as if you allowed law enforcement to let mafia investigate itself to figure out if there's any wrongdoing going on with it. So here I'll do this. It's like a pretend back and forth. It says here, we should investigate all these claims of mafia criminal activity. How? Well, send some funding to a few of the most powerful families in the mob and have them set up a resolution office within their organization to look into what's going on. Do you think they'll do some serious investigation, obey the law, and report back what's really happening? Of course. And when they find nothing, we'll be sure to let the mainstream media know it so the whole world will know the truth. Yeah, I mean, that's how absurd this whole situation is. People don't realize how AARO was set up. It was set. I mean, we're saying here the Pentagon is covering up this crash retrieval, reverse engineering programs, right? And here they allow the Pentagon to set up its own office here with its own director, the director that they named, Kirkpatrick, to investigate it. Now he's coming out and saying there's nothing to it. That's how stupid this whole thing is. What did we think was going to happen? So that's people need to understand. I'm not sure if people in the mainstream media understand this. Let's see what else. There was some other comments here I wanted to mention. Here was one from Mollius Mick. It says, brilliant episode. On the nail with the issues of obfuscation, too. It's become very clear that a small group of weapons development corps and their owners are glove puppeting our governments. The fact that they're keeping us in a perpetual state of war empowers them. If we go at them, they call us traitors because their secret weapons and research will get into the hands of the baddies. FFS, this Russia-China boogeyman blank needs to end. Yep. That's exactly. Okay, let's move on. Here was one from Ned. Ned says, your source, he's talking about, this was a couple podcasts ago, retired NASA engineer offers grim view of ET presence. He writes with regard to that episode, your source seems to know a lot about lots, but that doesn't mean to say most of it isn't true. Some of it I'm not sure, but who knows, he could know. NHI is a clever little acronym, non-human intelligence. What happened to extraterrestrial? NHI could mean anything. A dog has intelligence and it's not human. Any animal or in the insect world there is an intelligence and it's not human. It should be extraterrestrial. So Ned's arguing that it should be extraterrestrial and we shouldn't be using non-human intelligence. I don't know if I could agree with this one, Ned, because dogs, but they're animals. We're talking about a non-human I know the reason that Congress used non-human intelligence because they figured that there could be, if they didn't, that would be, if it's not extraterrestrial, if they can't prove that it's extraterrestrial, they know it's something and they're supposing it's coming from outer space, which I think that's where it is. But this way you're covering all the bases. That's why I think they had to do that. Anyway, he says here, extraterrestrials drive the spaceships. Extraterrestrials are abducting us and stealing our DNA. All these people, Kirkpatrick, Mick West, Neil deGrasse Tyson, they know well the truth, but they are paid to deny the truth and debunk. You would think an astronomer of the caliber of Neil deGrasse Tyson would have more integrity and curiosity. Well, he doesn't, obviously. So that's another. There's more to the comment there, and I'll there's a lot of people commenting on YouTube, a lot of people commenting on Spotify. So if you want to leave a comment, that's very much appreciated. Sometimes I'll read them here on the show. I'm going to switch over to Spotify here. There was some more comments. This is for the episode "Retired NASA Engineer Offers Grim View of ET Presence." Here was a comment. It says the name is too long. I guess it's IRSUI blah blah blah. But anyway, this person says, from my own experience with the Greys, they are here on a long-term mission. They utilize humans through reincarnation and encounters to upload information to their internet-like stream of consciousness. Well, honestly, I don't know exactly why they're here, but hey, all we can do is speculate because people in the government refuse to tell us the truth. What happens? There's all this wild speculation. I do a lot of it myself on this show because I just don't know exactly what's going on. I know there's something here, but as for what the purpose is, if it's what David Jacobs says it is, well, maybe. I'm not sure if I completely subscribe to it, but it could be that he actually investigated this and he came to some conclusions. Or you'll listen to other people out there say, well, they think they're here for to help mankind and things like that. Is that the truth? I don't know. Maybe some of them are, maybe some of them aren't. I don't know I really don't know what's going on, what their purpose is here, right? But the one thing I will say for sure is that they are here. There is something here because I know for a fact. Fred says, these things are clever, sneaky, and controlling in their actions, mostly non-friendly jesters, in my opinion. Whether they are friendly or wish us harm, humanity has a right to the truth. I totally agree. Brian says, government secrecy is absurd. They know more than they let on for sure, terrified that the ET existence being known would bring harm to the world. Yeah, that could be the factor. It could be a combination of that and the fact that they're terrified of what the world's going to think when they find out that they've been getting lied to for almost 80 years now. Chris says, we know from our own experience what most don't, and we can't explain it because they won't believe it. What else can you do? And let's see. Here's Jamie Darger says, I have a friend that says, even if there is aliens, what does that have to do with me? Is that going to change my day-to-day life? Probably not. Yeah, I think, once the truth comes out, people are just going to, it's just one more thing. I mean, there's a lot of things going on in this world, right? I don't think it's going to change some people are going to be really freaked out at first, but, I don't think it should be that big of a deal. I mean, we are dealing with it, whether you know it or not, right? We are dealing with it right now. People don't know it. Some people don't know it. So we are dealing with it. We've been dealing with it. It's not going to change much. And then here's Zach talks about the essay that was written for that episode by my anonymous source. He says, I'll tell you what, bro, that essay is very well thought out, and you can tell he really had his experience. He's hyper intelligent, and to me makes more sense than anything I've ever heard. Yes, I thought it was a really good essay that he wrote for that I talked about during that episode. And then for I'm gonna get caught up here on the recent Spotify polls for the last two episodes. I haven't done them yet. Actually, I'm gonna start from the episode It's Real. For that episode, I asked the question: is the assertion that there's an extraterrestrial and or non-human intelligence presence on Earth true or false? Now we're up to 71 votes. 2 people or 2.8% say false. 69 people or 97.2% say true. Yep, it's true. Yep, I agree with the majority, of course. For the episode, Retired NASA Engineer Offers Grim View of ET Presence, I asked the question, do you agree with the essay's author that some ETs present on Earth are parasites that pose a threat to humanity? 58 votes so far. 20 people or 34.5% say no, while 38 people or 65.5% say yes. I think that it's possible that they could be. I'm probably leaning with the majority on this one. I think that some aliens are here for just checking us out, and I think other ones are here for other things, for their own purposes, and they don't really. And we're in the way, or maybe we're helping them in some way that if we knew what kind of help that was, we wouldn't offer it. So yeah, I'm gonna lean with the majority on that one. And then for the episode Kirkpatrick Strikes Back, I asked the question, is Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick knowingly lying about secret government UFO programs, or is he an ignorant but useful doofus for the control group? 25 votes only so far. 6 people or 24% say he's a doofus, while 19 people or 76% say he's a liar. And I just want to point out that there was some comments I received for this episode as well. Walmart Clearance says he's a lying doofus. So he's saying he's both. He's a lying doofus. Rob Aldrich writes, his 2 pieces in Sort of Science in America just proves Elizondo and several other people's comments about the wannabe scientific hipster regarding his abilities are proven absolutely correct. Brian writes, he's a flim-flammer and a dolt, like getting the mafia to investigate all the murders at the docks. Okay, moving on here. I just want to go to one more thing here on Twitter, and this was something that I had posted. I had to respond. Michael Shermer, the longtime debunker, he goes on Twitter and he writes this. He goes, Carl Sagan on UFOs and belief in aliens as a new religion, 1965 interview for a Walter Cronkite story. So then he has this big long quote here from Carl Sagan that was made in 1965, and Carl Sagan making it sound like UFOs and aliens, that it's a new religion. You still hear this one today, that they try to make it look like people in the UFO community, people who encountered these things, that we're part of some kind of a religion, like we're some crazed kind of cult. That's what they try to make it out to be. And he writes here, here's the quote that he uses from Sagan. It says here, I think a key to what's behind the real belief in flying saucers is most easily obtained if you look at the contact myths. There are several 100 people in the United States who claim to have had personal contact with the inhabitants of flying saucers who have landed. And if you examine these myths, you find that there are some peculiar regularities. The inhabitants of saucers are benevolent. I mean, they're really concerned about our well-being. They're omnipotent, extremely powerful, omniscient, extremely knowledgeable, and they often wear long white robes. Now, this combination is something I've heard in another context. This isn't science, this is religion. And what I suspect is happening is this: we live in very unsettled times. It used to be possible to believe in a personal, benevolent, powerful, all-knowing God who cared about individuals who you could pray to. But now there's very few people who really believe that, I think. Science, for good or for ill, has destroyed a lot of the traditional theologies, and yet people have the same needs to believe what they always did, perhaps more so because of the times we live in. Well, the flying saucer myths are a really clever compromise. It's a way of having beings that come from the sky that are worried about us, that are powerful, that are going to step in and prevent us from destroying ourselves, as we may very well might. Okay, that's for one thing. That this comment that Shermer's using from Sagan is nonsense. I mean, this is outdated. I mean, 1965. That the story about Betty and Barney Hill wasn't even published yet. That wasn't really published until the book didn't come out until 1966. But for the most part, what he's talking about here was those people from the 1950s, the UFO contactees. There were a lot of these people were just making stuff up, like George Adamski and all that kind of stuff. But there were people, other people that started getting abducted, really abducted by these things, right? And it wasn't a nice experience for a lot of these people over the decades, as we have learned. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Sagan, right? He never really investigated this. He made this comment, but then he still never really investigated. All these years, after more years went by and more stories started to emerge, showing these beings as terrifying to a lot of the people who got abducted, he still didn't believe it. He still wouldn't really study it. He basically did his research via proclamation, and but Shermer's here pointing this out, trying to make it look again that people in the UFO community are just a bunch of cultists, it's like a new religion, which is nonsense. But anyway, I had to respond to him. And I wrote, projection from Shermer, just like fascists like to do. Shermer turns to the debunker's cult god Sagan as if he were some modern-day Christ for science. Actually, he was a dope just like Shermer, who refused to study the phenomenon and did his research via proclamation. That's the truth. These debunkers, they like to, it is a form of projection as far as I'm concerned. They keep talking about how the UFO community, it's a new religion, right? It's a new religion. It's a cult. No. They're the cult. This is projection. They're projecting what they really are out to us to try to make us look bad. Actually, they're the cult. I think their religion is called, it's Satanism. They prop this Carl Sagan up as their god. He's their god, and he's who they pray to. Right? They're the crazy cultists. That's who's the cultist here. That's the new religion, Satanism. And isms aren't good. Anyway, I wanted to point that out there. We need to keep combating with these debunkers and putting them in their place on a regular basis. If you see them making stupid comments on YouTube or on Twitter or on Reddit or wherever, you comment back. Put them in their place. Tell them, no, that's you. No, that's you. Point out how they're wrong. More people in the UFO community need to start doing this. Anyway, yeah, that's what it is. It's called Satanism. Shermer's a Satanist. That's who he is, a Satanist. It's a new religion out there. Look out for it. Be scared of it. These people are crazy. They're crackpots. They're really afraid of this whole UFO subject. They're scared out of their gourds about it. Anyway, I was going to end this by saying, hey, we're going to get this report tomorrow. It's going to be bogus. We've been there. We've done it before. We'll get through it, and then we'll just move on. I'm sure once we have the report in our hands, we'll look at it and, okay, this is a lie. Okay, that's a lie. Okay, this is a lie. All right, that's a lie. They're lying to us again. Oh, the mainstream media wrote this article. Look, it's pro gatekeeper, right? We'll be able to point all these things out, and we just keep it going. I hope Lou Elizondo's right that there's going to be other things that are going to happen this year, that something's going to finally give, right? We've been hearing this, like last year was something was going to happen. Some things have happened. There have been things that have happened, but we still didn't get to that that red line. We have not crossed the red line. We got up real close up against it a couple times, but we still have not crossed it. Hopefully very soon we cross that line and there will be no going back. No going back. Anyway, I want to say thank you all for joining me. Until next time.